Welcome to our Rotherham SEND video, and this is going to cover frequently asked questions about the EHC assessment process. Please also take a look at additional information on our website or on our YouTube video, which is about EHC Needs Assessment and draft plans. In this video, we'll try to answer some questions we often get asked by families when they're either thinking of an EHC Needs Assessment or if they're in the middle of the process. So a question we often get asked is if your child has a medical condition or a health need and they require some support, would they need an EHC plan for this? It is true that an EHC Needs Assessment is an assessment of education, health and social care needs. However, for the local authority to agree to carry out an EHC Needs Assessment, they have to be satisfied that a child has or may have special educational needs. This means having a learning difficulty or a disability, and that they may need additional support to be put in place for them via an EHC plan. There are many different medical or health needs that would not be considered to be a disability, and there's also lots of children who may have a medical condition, but that doesn't mean that they also have a learning difficulty. As such, an EHC Needs Assessment would not be appropriate to consider in these cases. However, schools and settings have to make reasonable adjustments to ensure children who do have a disability are not put at a disadvantage. And schools and settings also have to follow the statutory guidance that's called Supporting Pupils at School with Medical Conditions. So schools and settings can put support into children who have got either a medical condition and a health need if they don't have special educational needs. Another question we get asked is if they want the school to request an EHC Needs Assessment, but they say they aren't ready to do this yet, and the parents don't often understand why they must wait. As mentioned on the previous slide, the local authority would have to be satisfied that a child has or may have special educational needs and a disability, and that they may need SEND provision to be put in place via an EHC plan in order to carry out the EHC Needs Assessment. Schools and settings have expectations to use their best endeavours to meet the needs of all children. This means doing everything that they can within their resources. Schools and settings have funding within their own budgets, which is to be used to provide additional support where a child needs it. They would need to also review any support that's been implemented so far to see if it's made any positive differences. The mechanism for support in schools is called SEND support and is provided by a graduated approach. You can find more information on our SEND YouTube channel and website about SEND support in mainstream schools. The support the schools have delivered and reviewed will all be recorded in some way. This information will then form part of, if not all of the evidence that the local authority would consider when deciding if a child has SEND and if they need provision via an EHC plan. If the local authority aren't satisfied that the evidence supports the EHC Needs Assessment request, they may be likely to refuse the assessment at this stage. So if school have told you to request the EHC Needs Assessment yourself, as it would be quicker, or more likely to be successful from a parental request, we often get asked this and whether it's true or not. The EHC Needs Assessment process is exactly the same regardless of who requests it. Once the local authority receive a request, they have to follow the statutory timescales and make their first decision, which is whether to go ahead with the EHC Needs Assessment or not, within 6 weeks of being asked. To help them make this decision, they will ask school for information, and school have a duty to cooperate with the process. So therefore, if the school is asking you to do the EHC Needs Assessment rather than doing this themselves, you might want to ask them why they feel this would be better, as the process is exactly the same regardless. So we sometimes get questions about the EHC Needs Hub. So some families have been told that all EHC Needs Assessment requests now have to be done on an EHC Hub, and we often get families who don't know what it is or how to access it. The local authority have to take a request in any form. They can't reject requests based on the fact that the parent didn't use the correct tool or format. As such, you can send your request via email, letter, or via the EHC Hub. If you're sending it via email, the email address to do that is the assent@rotherham.gov.uk. If you would prefer to do that via letter, it's the EHC Assessment Team, and that's based at Kimberworth Place on Kimberworth Road in Kimberworth, Rotherham, S61 1HE. If you do want to do it via the EHC Hub, the link to do that is here, and there's also a frequently asked questions section on the EHC Hub, and you can see that link here as well. So we do get quite a few questions about the type of evidence that might be useful. So for example, if a family is looking at submitting an EHC assessment, what could be used as evidence? Obviously, our first suggestion is always to speak with the school to see if they've got any evidence to support at the graduated approach level. You might also wish to take a look at our video called Send Support in Mainstream Schools. If you feel it would be appropriate to request an assessment, you might wish to also consider things such as any diagnosis reports that you have, health or medical reports, therapy reports or programmes that have been followed, although please be aware that if they're significantly out of date, it might be considered to be too old. A record of achievement from school that might outline what a child's needs might be. Documents that may have been from school, such as a SEND support plan, IEPs, which might show limited progress or the same targets being set over again. Any exclusion letters that your child might have received, or their attendance record if that's showing a picture that your child might find school challenging. You might have got some private reports or reports from other school traded services, for example, the Educational Psychology Service. So once you've submitted an EHC assessment request, can the local authority say no? The local authority shouldn't reject a request outright without first considering any evidence in line with the following test: that your child has or may have special educational needs or a disability, and they may need SEND provision securing via an EHC plan. However, once the local authority have considered all the information that they've received, if they feel that the evidence submitted doesn't support the test above, they can refuse to carry out an EHC Needs Assessment at this point. You'll be informed of their decision in writing. There are occasions where families might have requested an EHC Needs Assessment, but the local authority have made their decision without some evidence being submitted on time, and so it's not being considered. We often get asked, what can we do at that stage? So families have got 4 options at this point, and they could either accept the local authority decision and continue to work with the school at a graduated approach level. At some point in the future, that might also lead to a further request for an EHC again. You could resubmit the request, but making sure all the evidence is presented on time. As the local authority have not carried out the assessment at this point, there are no time limits that have to be considered before requesting an assessment again. You could request mediation, ensuring all your evidence is available for the mediation meeting. Please take a look at our video on refusal to assess with an additional focus on mediation. You could go forward with an appeal, although again, please take a look at our video on things to consider before lodging an appeal. You might find it helpful to gain some impartial information and advice, particularly if you're considering mediation or appeal. So there are times where families aren't sure what the outcome of an EHC Needs Assessment has been. So what can they do at that point? First of all, check the EHC Hub or ask the school to check it for you. All local authority response letters to the EHC process are placed on the Hub for you to view. You should have received an email to say look at the Hub because there's new information on there for you to take a look at. Or you can contact your EHC coordinator who's working with your area. Your school will have their email address, or alternative you can find them here. If you scroll to point 10 on the left hand side of this link when you go on it, it will give you the details of who to make contact with. So we often have calls from families if they're finding that the EHC assessment process is taking longer than it should, and they often ask us what can they do at that stage. We'd first suggest you make contact with your EHC case coordinator. You'll find their contact details on the EHC Hub. Hopefully this contact will help resolve the situation. You may wish to escalate this if things are not resolved. You can make contact with their line manager to share your dissatisfaction. You can find their details on the EHC Hub too. You could contact the EHC team manager or the disagreements resolution member of staff within the EHC team. You could contact them via the following email address: assent@rotherham.gov.uk, marking your email clearly for the attention of the service manager. If things are not resolved at that stage, you could lodge a formal complaint. You can find out more about the complaints, including a form to complete, on this link here. If you've exhausted the above, or your situation is still not rectified, or the response to your complaint was not satisfactory, you can also complain to the local government ombudsman, and you can find out more information on the following link here. There is often an understanding that if an EHC plan is issued, it means that the child will get a special school allocated. If the local authority agreed to carry out an EHC Needs Assessment, and then following the assessment they agree to issue an EHC plan, you'll be provided with a draft EHC plan first and 15 calendar days to say which school you would like your child to attend. The local authority will have to send a copy of the draft EHC plan to any school that you've asked for, and to any others that they also feel would be able to meet your child's needs. They would have to ask the schools if they could offer a place and provide all the provision listed in the EHC plan. This is called the consultation period. If the school you have asked for is one of the following types: a maintained school or nursery, and that's mainstream or special, an academy, again mainstream or special, an institution in the further education sector, a non-maintained special school, or a Section 41 school. The local authority have a conditional duty to name your preferred school unless one of the following reasons is evident. The setting is unsuitable for the age, ability, aptitude, or special educational needs of your child or young person, or the attendance of your child or young person would be incompatible with the provision of efficient education for others, or the attendance of your child or young person would be incompatible with the efficient use of resources. If you want more information about this section of the EHC plan and the process, please take a look at our video on considering a school to name in an EHC plan. We hope you've found this information helpful, although please take a look on our website and YouTube channels for other associated videos and information.